Isaiah's little apocalypse,
Right.
because it's this vision of this catastrophic global judgment that happens to all the nations, and then God is going to intervene. And in the intervention, chapter 27, I'll read the text, because Isaiah uses every Old Testament word for the chaos monster.
Yeah, nice.
In
I love it.
that passage.
We brought up the chaos monster a little bit last week, but we didn't get into it too
good.
much. So
yeah. Psalm 74. I don't know if
we were talking Psalm 74. But one of the things we were amused by, we were amused by is when the Leviathan becomes like Yahweh's play toy,
plaything.
In the
Psalm 104.
That's in 104. Yeah, he becomes the plaything in 104.
Yeah, he defeats it in 74, and Psalm 104 it's a plaything. Well, here again he defeats it. And the Old Testament uses this chaos monster imagery in different ways, and we have to let it, let the metaphor work in each of its distinct passages.
Yeah.
I mean, God doesn't really, sort of take up a sword and go somehow physically. I mean, that doesn't
cut the head off the dragon.
That doesn't happen. This is a metaphor, but it's a metaphor that speaks to spiritual realities,
right,
and real spiritual forces.
Yeah.
Just because it's metaphorical doesn't mean there aren't real entities and things behind it.
Right.
So here you have in the cataclysm of judgment that hits the whole planet, in 24 through 27, you get in 27:1, in that day, the Lord with his, listen to this pilot of adjectives. In that day, the Lord with his hard and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea. Every word in the Old Testament for the embodiment of chaos
comes up there,
and Yahweh with his sword he defeats it all. And of course, that don't miss the fact that chapter 27 comes on the heels of 25 and 26. It talks about the shroud of death being lifted, and the resurrection in chapter 26 comes into play. And so this is sending chills up my spine right now, even thinking about it. And then in chapter 51, it comes up again in 9 through 11, when another favorite theme of Isaiah is the Exodus motif.
New Exodus coming.
Exodus coming out of Babylon is like coming out of Egypt, and there the arm of the Lord again pierces the dragon. And another word for chaos there, Rahab, not Rahab, the woman in Joshua,
right?
The prostitute, but it's actually, in Hebrew, it's a different word, spelled very similarly, but it's slightly different. So it's another name for the chaos monster used in Isaiah 51.
Right.
So from every conceivable angle, God is going to bring an end to what is really at the heart of all of our suffering in life.
What is the force, the thing destructing good creation? It's chaos. Yeah, that's good.
And it's so he will deal with it.
Yeah, and like I think that's got a lot of like important spiritual pastoral significance. You were saying it's become kind of the most important thing for you, or the way you think of evil in the world. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on how you would synthesize that for people that are listening? So, we've got this force of chaos that wants to, and part of what we see throughout the Old Testament when they're celebrating God's sustaining power in creation, he continues to stave off chaos, which wants to undo. So the plagues in the Exodus are actually kind of depicted as God allowing chaos to reign. So it's like an undoing of creation, right? And you see that picked up in the tribulations in Revelation. It's the same idea. It picks up the Exodus plagues, and it's like the unraveling of good creation, the inbreaking of chaos. So I'd just be curious to hear, maybe just a couple minutes, and we can end here. How would our listeners and viewers think about about this theme of chaos, which might be kind of new in some ways, because it's not like we don't really go to church and say, Lord, stave off the chaos, or you know what I mean? Like, we don't, that's not typically a regular part of our prayer life, like, Lord, put an end to chaos. That isn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we should.
Right. So, right.
It isn't part of mine.
Right.
Yeah. So,
how to help our listeners.
Chaos is the consequence of sin. And I don't mean just, what we personally do, although that contributes. We don't sin alone. When every time I sin, it sends, if you will, this sort of, maybe it's a small shockwave on the cosmic scale, but it's another ripple that goes off into the universe that disrupts the fabric of creation, because it twists and bends and distorts God's original design. And even if it's a small way, the aggregate is huge. And so I think that we live our lives with, really, chaos is under the surface. It's as though we live our lives walking on a layer of ice, and the behemoth, the monster, is right underneath that ice and could break through at any time. And so when I preach this, I say, we all know all too well that chaos is only a phone call away. That this, here's my cell, this could ring at any moment with news from some quarter that announces chaos breaking into my life in some way.
Yeah.
And so whether it's personal, or I put on BBC News and look at what's happening in the world, whatever it is, at different levels, different scales, it's all the manifestation of chaos resulting from human failure. The image, God's image, is distorted, and we are co-creators, but unfortunately, because we are distorted image bearers, we are, which is another theme in Isaiah, the idea of the image of idols versus, the image, the servant who's supposed to be the true image. And that's a whole nother theme that would be
maybe another podcast we have to get you back on.
But it's, it's a big handle that I've taken on in terms of chaos, is a handle that I use that it explains a lot. In the book of Job, in my theology on Job, it's another podcast.
We should
it's
do
a
that.
lot, because the Leviathan chaos monster theme is huge in the book of Job, and Job is suffering as a casualty in God's war against chaos. As Yahweh battles chaos, we have to choose in this world. Which side we're going to be on. Are we going to cooperate with God's kingdom program and be transformed as image bearers and create life, or are we going to align ourselves, have our allegiance with chaos, and produce that which is antithetical to God's creative design?
Wow, that's really good. Yeah, and I think it's so like, that's why we need mythological language in some ways, because how else are you going to articulate this cosmic problem that we're all wrapped up in?
The theme is too big.
We just have too simplistic and frankly just insufficient ways of talking about sin sometimes in church, when we just reduce it to, the problem is just what I do on an individual basis or whatever. Like, chaos really speaks to the cosmic nature of something that's both outside of us, that's in the cosmos, but also something that infects us and puts us at risk, puts our community at risk. Our communities can take on chaotic features that we have to repent of, and allow God to. So like I think it's just really important for us to grasp what the biblical authors are helping us do here in giving us this kind of language. And we see similarly in the New Testament with the way Paul talks about sin, capital S, if you like, as this kind of cosmic force that we also, it's not just about, Johnny doing bad things or good things. It's like, it's part of it because we all participate in this system of humanity, but it's bigger than that. And even the powers and principalities, Paul's talking about real beings, but he doesn't overly ontologize them, because his interest is particularly in the ways that they are wreaking havoc and chaos in creation. And his whole thing is, you're dead to that creation. Come live in the new creation, new humanity.
Yeah.
And your new humanity is the sign to these agents of chaos that their reign is over, right?
That's good.
So
yeah,
maybe that's a good place for us to kind of wrap up, and just thinking about
new creation.
End of chaos. We see at the end of Revelation, the sea is no more. That's